Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of Operation Homefront, and welcome to Operation Homefront's 2013 Military Child of the Year Gala Dinner. We're honored to have you here to help us recognize a group of exceptional young people as we celebrate our 5th year presenting the Military Child of the Year Award. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to, now that you've found your seats, please rise for the presentation of colors. Making the presentation tonight is the Junior ROTC from T.C. Williams High School here in Alexandria, Virginia. Boy, they were fast. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Please feel free to begin your dinner. As many of you know, Operation Homefront provides emergency, financial, and other assistance to the families of our service members and our wounded warriors. Our assistance is targeted at the junior and mid-grade enlisted who are deployed, and our grants most often go to help with the most basic of needs, like rent, utilities, and even food assistance. We also provide transitional housing for the wounded leaving the military due to their injuries, permanent mortgage-free homes for veterans, and support programs for caregivers, backpacks with school supplies for military kids, night-off events for spouses, and a host of other things to help lighten the load of our military families. We do all these things, thank you, we do all these things with a dedicated staff in 22 field offices covering 44 states, backed up by thousands of volunteers. And we've maintained an efficiency rating of 94% for 3 straight years and earned a 4-star charity rating for 6 consecutive years. However, underpinning all of those things we do are our beliefs and values. We believe that our military service members and their families make sacrifices every day for the freedoms that we all enjoy. We believe that these families, while facing life and death challenges, sometimes also face challenges meeting the most basic of needs. We believe the U.S. federal budget cuts will only increase these needs, and we believe these families have earned our support. And we also believe that we should honor patriotism and service to country of our service members and their families. The Military Child of the Year Award is just one of the ways that Operation Homefront honors that patriotism and service to country, specifically by our military kids. They all have borne the hardships over 11 years of war, including the absence of their loved ones, challenges of an economic downturn, the reality of wounded and injured family members, and all the other dynamics of military life. PCSing, changing friends, household goods shipments, retirement, transitioning back into civilian life, just to mention a few. But the crucible of those challenges of military life also creates great strength of character, extraordinary leadership, and unusual commitment to family and community. Tonight, you'll meet 5 young people who not only have to deal with the normal rigors of growing up, but all the challenges I mentioned earlier. Young people who have become caregivers, school and volunteer activity leaders, live life in the fast lane of increased responsibilities, and who have risen to the occasion. We want America to know about these wonderful young American patriots, and that's why we're here to honor the best of the best, the 2013 recipients of the Military Child of the Year Awards. Each honoree will receive $5,000 from Operation Homefront as part of their award. In addition, a couple of our partners have asked for an opportunity to honor them as well. Once again, our friends at Soldiers Angels are donating laptop computers, not just to the 5 awardees here tonight, but to all of our finalists from each of the services, so a total of 25 laptops to 25 amazing kids. And Veterans United Foundation surprised our honorees last night by presenting each of them with a $2,000 scholarship. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, the Wounded Warrior Project, Tri-West Healthcare Alliance, Military Times, Bank of America, Express Scripts, La Quinta Inns and Suites, Teen Central, Flextronics, and Northrop Grumman for their support of this gala. But for the 5 honorees here tonight, I think they'll find that the respect of their peers, the love of their families, and the gratitude that we as a nation express to them is really the valuable part of this award. This evening is possible because of the generosity of our presenting sponsor, United Technologies Corporation. UTC's corporate commitment to aim high, set ambitious goals, and deliver results is the spirit with which we honor our outstanding military children tonight. Their commitment to our military is tremendous, and we are thankful for their partnership and support of this program. I'd like to ask Marty Hauser, Director of Government Communications for UTC, to come to the stage and say a few words.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. How about a quick round of applause for Operation Homefront and the great thing they're doing? United Technologies is pleased to be a premier sponsor of this event. We like to say at UTC that we're the largest company nobody knows about. You probably don't know UTC, United Technologies. You will know as I explain it to you very quickly, but everybody who wears a uniform is familiar, most likely, with the companies that we hold, starting with Sikorsky Helicopters, which flies our troops in and out of the battlefield. United Technologies Aerospace Systems is the marriage of what was Goodrich Aerospace and Hamilton Sundstrand. They make parts. There's not an airplane or an aircraft in the world that any of us have flown on that doesn't have something that is made by UTC Aerospace Systems. Pratt & Whitney military engines and Pratt & Whitney engines. They're on the C-17, the Joint Strike Fighter, F-15s, F-16s, and a bunch of commercial aircraft that you've all flown on a regular basis. And then in the military installations, you have Otis elevators and escalators. You also have our carrier air conditioning system. So you can see that we've been a part of the military family for many, many years, and we continue to enjoy that relationship. So I'm very honored to be here tonight as a fellow Kansan. I particularly am happy to see Mrs. Eisenhower here because I grew up learning about her father many ways, just living 30 miles down the road. And obviously, we're very pleased with the recipients of our awards. That's what this is all about. And as my mother would say, you know, they come from good stock. It's not only that they're great children who help their military services, but their families, as you all know, contribute on a daily basis. And what we have seen from them in the last year is just testament to what we're going to see from them in the decades to come. So I salute all of the award winners today. Thank you for sharing this evening with us, and everybody enjoy.
Thank you, Marty. Our military families are grateful for UTC's unflagging support, and thanks to all of you for joining us here tonight, and I hope you're looking forward to our program. But before we begin presenting our awards, I'm going to step away from the podium for a few minutes, and we can enjoy our dinner. I hope you enjoy the food and fellowship with so many of our friends of Operation Homefront. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us. I'll start by telling you that our honorees were chosen from more than 11,000 nominees this year. We gave the tough job of choosing our winners to a group of about 30 people who include military service members, spouses, staff, teachers, and military moms. Many of them are here tonight, and I'd ask our judges who are in attendance to stand and be recognized. And also, our staff are organizing the selection and putting together this great event. How about another round of applause for them? As challenging as the selection certainly was, we did choose the best of the best. And no one understands how amazing our military kids and military families are than our first speaker this evening. A man who needs no introduction, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Please welcome General Martin Dempsey.
All right, we're really delighted to be here again. This is the second year in a row we've gotten to do this, and the same thing happened to me this year that happened to me last year, and that is I came kind of prepared and knowing what I wanted to say. And last year, I walked in and I met Nate the Great, and there he is now. He's got this iPad pointed at me. Nate, come on up here, man. So check him out, Nate the Great. So Nate was one of the awardees last year, and when I say it disarmed me, is you walk in and you think to yourself, I'm the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Nobody is quite as cool as me. And then I met you, Nate, and you are as cool as me. In fact, you're cooler. And what Nate does now, by the way, and Alexander, one of the awardees tonight, does the same thing, is they blog, they use the web, and they're in an anti-bullying campaign. Now, how great is that, huh? Good to see you, man. Thanks. You want to say something? Okay. All right, thanks. I asked him if he wanted to give my remarks. He said no. So I'm sitting over there and with my dinner guest, Annalise Knotts, who was a delightful dinner guest. Annalise, can you stand up? Third grade, science and math. Obviously, Jim's daughter, and already committed to making the world a better place. Nice to meet you, Annalise. And of course, in a moment here, Mary Jean Eisenhower will get up and give the keynote address. And I told Mary Jean that in my office, I only have a couple of, let's call them artifacts. Some would actually accuse me of being one of them. I'm not. But I have the original oil portrait of George Marshall. I have MacArthur's desk when he was in the Philippines. And I have an oil portrait painted by Dwight David Eisenhower. And I said to Mary Jean tonight, I said, no pressure there, those three guys. But we're delighted to meet you tonight, as we were to meet your sister. And what a grandfather. Congratulations. And by the way, that's kind of the spirit here tonight, isn't it, families? Before I talk about that, I was really impressed hearing about United Technologies. I'm actually one of the ones that know what United Technologies do. But when you hear about it, aircraft engines, elevators, generators, this and that, I saw John Greenert lean over and say, if they have a distillery, I'm retiring right now. But I don't know, do you have a distillery? Because I'd actually be a little interested in that. Yeah. So on this date in history, I'm a historian. I like to make sure I remember who we are and what we are. On this date in history, in 1970, Apollo 13 took off. You remember, yeah. And you remember for those of you that weren't alive at the time, which is probably most of you, but we were, Houston, we have a problem. And when all was said and done, what allowed that mission to have a happy ending, a successful ending, was teamwork, dedication, and ingenuity. And that's kind of my image of military families, teamwork, dedication, ingenuity. It's really, it is a distinct honor to be here again this year, as Deanie and I were last year, to celebrate the military family. And I don't want to steal the Chiefs' thunder. They're going to, or the CNO's thunder. They're going to each get up and introduce their candidates. But I got to tell you, what an incredible, really, group of young men and women, just as it was last year with my man over here with the iPad. And I've said, and without any false sense of humility, I'm glad that I didn't have to compete with them to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Just incredible young men and women who not only do their parents proud, but do their schools proud, their friends proud, their communities proud, and ultimately the nation proud. I just came back from Afghanistan. I try to get over there about every, I don't know, couple of months or so. And by the way, you know, to the naysayers, I don't mean anybody in this audience necessarily, but to the naysayers, you're going to be wrong. Our young men and women in uniform are actually going to pull this off. And they're going to pull it off because they have confidence. They're instilling that confidence in their Afghan partners. And they are instilling, in turn, confidence in the Afghan people. And it's not going to be anything that you and I would recognize as perfect, for sure. But they're going to pull it off. And they're going to pull it off because with the same spirit that those astronauts went to the moon in 1970 or tried to, these guys and gals are over there just getting it done. And they're over there getting it done because they want to give you and me the chance to live the lives we want to live. And they want these young men and women who are going to be up here in a moment to get an award to have the opportunity to be whatever they want to be. And I got to tell you, there's no other country in the world, really. I mean, there's a couple that come close, but there's no other country in the world where you can be whatever you want to be. I really mean that. So I don't want to steal General Ray Odierno's thunder, and, you know, he's actually a lot bigger than me, so I have to be careful. And, but I, you know, for example, you know, I said this date in history. So in 1997, the Army's awardee tonight was born. So it's actually her birthday. Where's Nicole? Stand up, Nicole. Now, Ray, I'll defer to you. Do you want to sing happy birthday or do you want me to do it? All right, I got it. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nicole. Big finish. Happy birthday to you. So, little known fact, her father will be promoted to Brigadier General tomorrow. Where's Ed? Thanks to the whole Daly family for taking that rock and putting it in your rucksack and giving the nation a great gift for your service. But it's not just the Dalys, it's all of the families. You know, we have dual military. Like I said, I don't want to steal the thunder of the Chiefs and the CNO here, but dual military families moved constantly, moved frequently. And you know, what sets military kids apart, of course, is that they have to earn a reputation, and then we move them. And they have to re-earn it, and then we move them again, and they have to re-earn it again. And, you know, by the time they're done, 8 schools, you know, 12 moves, whatever it happens to be, they've had to kind of reestablish their bona fides, their credentials, who they are, multiple times. And I got to tell you, my personal belief is it makes them stronger, it makes them more adaptable, makes them more resilient, and makes us damn proud of them. So let's give them a round of applause. So I'm awful proud to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and represent the JCS, but also represent the, you know, couple of million, give or take a few, young men and women in uniform, their families, who are out there every day. They're out there right now doing what the nation asks them to do. And behind them is this incredible network of families. And behind them, by the way, are organizations like Operation Homefront, who make sure that we not only remember what they're doing, but we support them in the process. God bless all of you. God bless the services. God bless these kids, and God bless America. Thank you.
Let me tell you, it's daunting to stand at this podium after that gentleman. Thank you very much, General Dempsey and Mrs. Dempsey, for joining us again this year. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I think it really speaks to the value our military leadership ascribes to the service that our families demonstrate in service to the nation as well. Thank you. And so without further ado, we're going to present the award for the Army Military Child of the Year. And to do so, we actually have another special guest, the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Ray Odierno.
Well, it's a distinct honor to be here. And first off, I'm very happy that Chairman decided to sing, because the last thing you ever want to do is hear me sing. So that would have been bad. Mary Jean Eisenhower, I have the great privilege of living in the house that your grandfather lived in as the Chief of Staff of the Army. His picture and his name is prominently throughout the house, so it's an honor to have you here today. And John Green, I just want to pass along to you that Nate, where's Nate at? Nate came to me earlier and had me sign a football for Nicole, and he said he did that last year. Navy won the Army-Navy game. So I told him I was willing to sign 10 footballs for whoever they would give them to. And I'm willing to do just about anything. So we'll beat Army. Army will beat Navy this year. Having spent a little time tonight with the Daly family, it's just incredible to sit there and watch this great Army family. And I've decided I'm adopting Nicole, and that I'm going to move her into quarters 1, and she's going to live with us. But her parents probably won't like that. But she's just your normal Army kid. She has a 4.7 GPA. That took me 2 years to get a 4.7 GPA. She is an athlete, loves to run cross country. I told her that she's going to run the Army 10-miler this year, and I think I got her to agree to that. So we're going to work her way through that. But she constantly dedicates her time to others, 150 hours, working with National Guard soldiers, understanding, trying to train them about the education benefits they have available to them. She's clearly a great big sister to her 2 brothers, setting a great example for them as they move ahead. She participates in so many events. If I listed them all here, I'd take much longer than the 2 minutes I'm allotted. But the thing that impresses me the most about Nicole is she's taken a difficult situation, many deployments by her dad, to use that as an inspiration for her to help others. And by doing that, she's become an inspiration to me. Because she represents what's best about our families. People who care about each other, people who are willing to help others in need, and people who are able to be resilient and continue to build on themselves as they work through their own difficult times of separation. And her dad's going to get ready to deploy again here pretty soon. And I hate to admit this, but I'm the one who made him do that. But we're doing it for a reason. I didn't choose him. Everybody wanted him to go because of the great job he has. But I know now that Nicole and her mom and her 2 brothers will be fine, because they are just an epitome of what we expect out of an Army family. So it's my honor that you're here tonight to represent all the families in the Army and all the great things that you do and what you'll do to represent us in the future. She's undecided about her future. She doesn't know if she wants to be a doctor or a lawyer. I told her I trust doctors a lot more than I trust lawyers. But I know whatever she decides to do, she'll do great at it, and we're very, very proud of her. So let us all give a great round of applause to the Army Military Child of the Year, Nicole Daly.
going to give her that back. Thank you, General Odierno, and congratulations to Nicole and to the Daly family. And next, to recognize our Military Child of the Year Award winner for the Marine Corps is the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Paxton.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Eisenhower, thank you very much. Great to be with you. And to our wonderful sponsors, both from the Operation Homefront organization to all our corporate sponsors, thank you for making tonight possible. On behalf of General Jim Amos, our Commandant, Sergeant Major Mike Barrett, our Sergeant Major, and 197,000 Marines, I am honored tonight to join you in recognizing the accomplishments of Abigail Perdue. Abigail, you can look at the screen there. Oh, there she is with her shades on. She's just as cool, and she's an adventurer with or without shades. Abigail probably wins the award that you always want at one of these reunions, which is who came the furthest, okay? Abigail's come 7,000 miles and 14 hours from the Kingdom of Bahrain to be with us today. And she is proof positive of the resiliency and the dedication and the spirit of our military families. One of those young ladies who's been to multiple high schools, but she does great things over in Bahrain. Her dad's been over there coming up on 3 years now. And Mom and the rest of the family made the hard decision to move back into Bahrain after we did not have military families there for a while. So she comes from good stock in that they're willing to serve forward, and to kind of be at the vanguard of things that prove that families work together, stay together, and do good things together. So I know her dad, Jason, and Mom, Jessica, are incredibly proud of her. Her older sister, Amanda, is here. Her younger brother, Ethan, is here. Ethan's already had 4 pieces of dessert there. He's good. Okay. And Abigail has a great sense of humor. When the wait staff put the tray down, it was just a little too close to the plate, and Mom actually bumped into it, and it was one of those periods when it was quiet, made a lot of noise. And Abigail said, "Oh, Mom, we just can't take you anywhere." I said, "That's why we can't have nice stuff at the house." So. But on a serious side, Abigail, like our other 4 recipients tonight, has really distinguished herself for many years. She's an avid athlete. She's a cross-country runner, a track and field runner, a swimmer, and a soccer player. She's involved in student government. She is a leader in the student-to-student program, where she has dedicated over 200 hours of her time to help new students into the school system. She's a math tutor. And on behalf of that, she's in the International Baccalaureate program, which is really a kind of grueling academic program in high school. She's taken over 4 AP courses. And unlike General Odierno, your grade point average has taken me 2 or 3 years to get there, so congratulations. Look at her bio in there. She will trace not only Dad, but she will trace back 3 or 4 generations of military service in all of the services. I found most instructive that one of her great uncles went to West Point and then went to the Marine Corps. So, General Dempsey, couldn't resist, General Odierno, couldn't resist, sir. All right. In that fashion, though, Abigail has elected to not only apply, she applied to the Air Force Academy, the Coast Guard Academy, and to the United States Naval Academy, was accepted and has committed to the Naval Academy, where she will matriculate. She's going to major in developmental economics, hopefully to get into a hard science skill, but then perhaps to be a FAO later on, and she can speak Arabic, and she wants to do more of that. So she is indeed proof positive of someone who is a learner, a doer, and then a leader and a contributor. So Abigail, on behalf of all your contemporaries here, but again, your dad and all those who serve with him and your military community, particularly the Marine Corps, we're very, very proud of you. And please join me in a warm welcome for the Marine Child of the Year, Abigail Perdue.
Many of you probably don't know that I'm actually an Air Force Academy graduate, and Abigail did visit 3 of the service academies before making her choice to go to the Navy. But General Paxton, sir, she did tell me that she's going to go to Annapolis, but she plans on joining the Air Force later. I'm just saying. Actually, she didn't. It is now my pleasure to introduce the presenter for the Navy Military Child of the Year Award, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Greenert.
Thanks, Jim. It ain't gonna happen. Abigail, you can put that right out of your mind. You're not ours yet, but when you raise your hand, you're with a winner, you'll stay. You know, did you ever have one of those kind of weeks where kind of coincidence is kind of odd? Darlene and I were in the UK, United Kingdom, just a few days ago for the changeover of the First Sea Lord. So we came back to host the Chief of the Australian Navy, Admiral Ray Griggs. So over 2 days, here we are, those 2 places. And then this morning, we honored Ray Griggs there in the Navy Yard. And this is when we met Alexander Ray Birch, who is our Military Child of the Year, and his mother, Joanne. Come to find out that Alexander's father, background, he's Australian. And there we are with the Chief of the Australian Navy. And his mother's background, family, is from the UK. And I said, so what do you like to do, Alexander? And he said, I like to play golf. It's Masters Week. What is happening? We're getting a lottery ticket right now. This could be the big one. But, hey, Nate, you got my better side here, I hope. Yeah, okay. I'm very proud to be up here to present Alexander, an extraordinary man from an extraordinary family. As they said earlier tonight, this apple did not fall far from the tree. His father, David, and Olivia, his younger sister, couldn't be with us here tonight. They're in Grand Forks, North Dakota, probably thawing out the car or doing other things, whatever happens there, but they couldn't be with us. But truly an extraordinary family, service. His father, David, is a retired Navy chief, spent 24 years in the Navy, and Joanne still works with child and youth programs on the base. Now, you can read Alexander's biography. It's there in your program. You'll see this young man's experienced a lot in his life. To say that is kind of an understatement. He's a professional military brat, but there's much more. A very humble young man. I spoke with him tonight, and it was not about him. It was about people he knew, things he was doing with others, including his golf game. His handicap is lower than mine. But that ain't saying much, kiddo. That ain't saying much. Volunteerism is what this young man is about. As the chairman mentioned earlier, he's involved in a video for anti-bullying and the campaign. He volunteers all the time, over 400 hours just last year. Baseball youth programs, as I mentioned, golf, chess club, and also the honor roll. What else? At school. He's a voracious reader, as many of us are, but he reads good stuff, not email by a bunch of lame people. He reads good books by real authors. What a concept. I'm very honored and pleased to introduce our representative as the Military Child of the Year, Alexander Ray Birch. Alexander.
Well, if you were listening closely, yes, you did hear that right. Our Navy Child of the Year currently lives in North Dakota. Those of us with an Air Force background are very familiar with Minot in that part of the world. And as every Air Force military family knows, the question is, why not Minot? And for those of you who don't have an Air Force background, the correct answer is, freezing is the reason. So we're happy to have our Navy colleagues along with us there, about as far from the ocean as the Navy can possibly get. And so now it is my privilege to introduce to you Lieutenant General Darrell Jones from the Air Force, who is going to present and recognize our winner from the Air Force Military Child of the Year Award.
Well, thank you. It's a real honor to be with you here tonight and to represent our Chief of Staff, the United States Air Force, General Mark Welsh, who couldn't make it tonight but asked me to please give his best wishes to everyone and to congratulate all the winners. What an outstanding crew. You know, I'm the personnel guy for the Air Force, and one of the things that we do is we're in charge of all the biographies for all of the general officers. And they all write their biographies, and they're all very, very impressive, and they post them online. And every now and then I go check them out when we get the new general officers to make sure they did it right and they've covered everything. I got to tell you, we are very lucky that we don't have y'all's bios posted on our website, because we would look pretty pale compared to some of these winners today. I'm here today to acknowledge and thank a very special person and from a very special family, an Air Force family. Mark Newberry comes from a family that can trace their roots back to the Civil War and serving our nation. His father, Brian, serves as the wing commander. That is the tactical operational level commander at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane, Washington. His mother, Jill's there with him, and they are a great command team serving all of our airmen and all the other service members that are in the Spokane area. And, of course, we can't leave out Brother Matthew, who's also there helping in everything that they do and being a great part of the family. His Uncle John is also a colonel serving on the Joint Staff here at the Pentagon. And as I mentioned his mother earlier, she also serves, she's a nurse, and she serves in a different way, because anyone in uniform will tell you that it's about service. It's not about military service. And there are many ways to serve and give back to this nation and all the great things that they've given us. You know, in the Air Force, we have 3 core values. We often talk about integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. Mark epitomizes those 3 core values. We like to say that we instill them in our airmen. But I got to tell you that our parents really do that. They're the ones that instill the core values. We just sharpen them just a little bit. Mark's teachers will tell you that he has great character when you talk about integrity, that he always does the right thing and is always thoughtful of others and makes sure that he's willing to go the extra mile to help folks out. When you're talking about service, he's moved 10 times in supporting his father's career in the Air Force. He knows what it's like to be part of something bigger than himself. He's an Eagle Scout in Boy Scouts, as his brother Matthew is. He volunteers and serves at the local shelter with elderly family members and as a Sunday school teacher in his local church. And when it comes to excellence, he's really got that part handled. One of his mentors and one of his role models was Stephen Prefontaine, the great distance runner from Oregon. And Steve used to say that to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice a gift. Well, Mark doesn't sacrifice his gift. He's got a 4.25 grade point average. He excels in advanced placement programs in most of his courses. And he's done so well, he's lettered 3 times in track and field. Well, that didn't go unnoticed, I have to tell you. As Mark is looking on where he wants to go to school, he decided he would to follow in his father's footsteps and join the Air Force. And I'm proud to announce it wasn't in your program, but just last week the Air Force called and told the family that Mark was awarded one of our top scholarships from the United States Air Force. The Air Force offers 1,500 scholarships a year, but we only offer 75 top-tier scholarships for a full ride to any institution. And I know Mark is looking at a bunch of different schools. I think he's leaning toward Michigan right now, but he's still going to make that final decision. So if there's any alumni, this is the time to influence him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present the Air Force Military Child of the Year, Mark Newberry.
Congratulations, Mark, and thanks, General Jones. And least but last but certainly not least, is the Coast Guard. It was really important for us to recognize the Coast Guard and the service that they make, not only every day in their civilian missions and what they do to protect our country, but also in the military service. Their families serve in a lot of different ways, and I am proud to say that we have an outstanding Coast Guard Military Child of the Year this year, and to recognize him and introduce him to you, or introduce her to you, is the Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Papp.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that introduction, and it is great to be here. Linda and I are delighted to be here tonight. This is our first time to this event, and Jim mentioned it to me when we came in here this evening because we kind of have an excuse. This always seems to occur on our anniversary. So I said to myself, we have to go this year, so how do I approach that? So I went home to Linda and said, Lynn, I'm going to take you out for our 37th anniversary with 500 of our closest friends for dinner. And she accepted. Actually, we got in at about 1:30 this morning from our anniversary trip so that we could be here for this event. And I have to make an admission here tonight because I feel a little bit guilty. I left work early today. No, that's not what I'm feeling guilty about. But I went home, and when I went home to the quarters, I walked in and the television was on, and I figured I'd watch a little bit of news. But my guilty admission is I watched the Katie Couric show. No, it's not, Chairman, because the theme today was people who followed their dreams and seized the moment. And as soon as I heard the theme, I said, you know, that sounds like a lot of the young people that I was reading about in preparation for tonight. And sure enough, they had some great stories. But I would say the folks that have been introduced up here tonight would have filled in just as well on that show for following their hearts and seizing the moment as the people that were introduced during that show today. And Amanda Wimsberg is certainly one of those. I want to congratulate the first 4 recipients from our sister and brother services, but my job is to introduce Amanda, and I'm very proud of her. But as I watched the show this afternoon, there seemed to be 3 characteristics that I picked up on of the people who were mentioned. The first is they're very good at what they do. And not only are they good at what they do, but they constantly strive to make themselves better. And I refer to that as reaching and pulling yourself up. And Amanda has done this. National Honor Society, obviously a great scholar, but also a great athlete as well. Indoor and outdoor track and soccer, working and striving and practicing and making herself better to the point where she becomes the captains of both teams, and as I said, the National Honor Society. So that's good, and that would be great if that's all there was. But the second characteristic I noticed of all these people is once they become very good themselves, they pull themselves up, they find time then to pull people up with them, to lead others, to inspire others. And Amanda has done that, both as captain of her athletic teams and working within the National Honor Society, working with her church youth group, and working in a peer leadership program to help other people that are coming along through high school to make sure that they are introduced to high school and that they are not bullied. So that is sort of the leadership role. But then the third characteristic that I think separates them from everybody else is once they found time to pull themselves up, to bring others along with them, then they start reaching out. If you refer to it in sailors' terms, they reach outside the lifelines. They go out into their community and help others. They find the time to do all those other things, plus help their community. And she's done that by working with seniors and helping them out in the community, by working with the Susan G. Komen Fund, 2 years in a row, raising almost $10,000 each year, spearheading a drive with her teammates to raise that money. And then, oh, by the way, when one of their teammates had a brother who had a problem, she went out and started a fundraising drive for Corey, who was the brother, Corey's Crusade, and raised another $3,000 for that. So pulling oneself up, bringing others with you, and then reaching out to others has epitomized Amanda Wimmersberg's performance throughout her time as a Coast Guard military child. But she got off to a good start. Her father, Commander Rich Schultz, who is still on active duty, and then her mother, Tina Schultz, who is a retired lieutenant commander, gave her that grounding in this great service that we all love. And it's just my great pride tonight as the Commandant, and on behalf of the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Mike Levitt, and our 88,000 members of our Coast Guard family, to congratulate Amanda Wimmersberg for her selection as the Coast Guard Child of the Year.
Congratulations, and thank you, Admiral Pat. Well, what more can you say, ladies and gentlemen? Your 2013 Military Children of the Year. One more round of applause. We have one more treat for you this evening, our keynote speaker. Mary Jean Eisenhower was born in Washington, D.C. during her grandfather's first term as president. As president and CEO of People to People International, Ms. Eisenhower carries on her grandfather's dream of tolerance and mutual understanding. People to People has a presence in 135 countries, with more than 80,000 families and individuals participating in its programs for students and adults. And she was saying earlier that she's visited 175 countries? 75. Okay. Well, you're not that many air miles in. With 135 countries, that's quite a challenge to be able to visit all of those locations and run the kinds of programs that have such a huge impact. And so it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Mary Jean Eisenhower.
I just got real busy, 175 countries. Good evening. I can't begin to tell you how humbled I am and how my heart has been touched by being a part of this evening and seeing the wonderful young people and the wonderful older people who have already seen their dreams, and of course the photographers. As others have mentioned, I couldn't help but be utterly impressed when I looked at every one of the bios. Back in my day, we didn't even count above 4.0. Great, I'm going 4.75. Wow, okay. But it makes, from a very selfish standpoint, it makes me feel very comfortable about my own future, because I know I'm in good hands, even as I'm a little old lady, that, there will be good people running this country. And I think we can safely say that Mark, Abigail, Nicole, Alexander, and Amanda are part of the core of the future leadership of this country. And I know it's been done a couple of times tonight, but let's give them another huge hand. And also, even though I'm not officially a part of Operation Homefront, I still feel the need to say thank you to those present who have made this evening possible and the organization possible, whether it's by your leadership and your presence here, whether it's by the example you set for our young people, for each other, or whether it's just plain great parenting. Thank you. I'm always very happy when I'm in the company of our distinguished armed forces, both past and present. I think it would be kind of safe to say that the military culture runs in my blood. Both of my grandfathers, my father, my uncle, my brother, and my ex-husband, and that's not why he's an ex, all were in the military. So I've been a brat, a wife, a sister, a cousin, a niece, and I can honestly say, I know it isn't easy. It takes courage, not only to be the one serving, but also to be the one supporting. To quote a dear friend of mine, anyone who's willing to sign the dotted line that, if necessary, they will give their own life to save mine is my automatic hero. I do visit the wounded frequently, and the thing that I always hear was, when I call them a hero or something like that, I always hear, well, I was just doing my job. Well, that's kind of out of the scope of other duties as assigned, as far as what qualifies you to be a citizen. And that being said, I think that thank you for your service is extremely weak and underrated. As you may know, my paternal grandfather was Dwight Eisenhower. I was born during his, first term in office. Don't bother with the math, I'm old. So in getting to know him, I knew the Ike after 40 years of military service. We were a close-knit family, so he had a lot of influence in our upbringing. The really great thing about having him as a grandfather was exactly that. He was a knee-slapping grandfather. He came from a family where 6 brothers grew to adulthood. There were 7, but one died as an infant. He himself had 2 sons, one of which died at 3.5 of scarlet fever, leaving my father as his only surviving son. I might add that in August, my own father, John Eisenhower, who graduated West Point on D-Day, will be, and he's a World War II vet, obviously, he will be 91 years old. So here's to Daddy in absentia. Daddy made up for his lack of siblings. I'm the youngest of 4, and I always say the very youngest of 4. But one thing about my grandfather, I guess because he'd seen so much in his life, he was fiercely protective, and yet he loved the chaos of the large family. He tried to make our lives as normal as possible. However, he rarely left the grandchildren out of anything. So often I'm asked what he was like, and that's the beauty of being Ike's granddaughter, because he had the ability to leave work when he was with us, and he lived totally in the moment. I did, however, experience firsthand his trust in people's abilities to follow orders. For example, he taught me how to horseback ride. I was probably about, 6, maybe 7 years old at the most. No, it was probably 6. But anyway, there were horses on the farm in Gettysburg, and I was so small that they had to double the stirrups in order for me to get my feet in. And I might add, it was English style. There was nothing to hang on to except the reins. And he went through this whole set of instructions, hold the reins just so and make sure they come by your little finger, pull the horse this way, don't let the horse know you're afraid, grip with your knees, and I'm like, okay. And he said, do you understand? And I said, yeah. He says, you got that? Yes. He said, repeat it back to me. So I did. He said, all right, good. And he hit the back end of the horse, and the horse took off. So I ended up on the horse's neck, but I did not hit the ground. And then to tell a little one on him, while he founded the interstate system, he himself did not have a driving license till he was 74 years old. Imagine that. He was a military man. He didn't need one. But he loved to drive in the small town of Gettysburg that he had retired to. And it was a close community, so he loved to wave to the neighbors and, stop by the local markets and that kind of thing. The catch was, however, he apparently still, even though retired, had a little bit of military lead left in his foot. He was stopped numerous times for speeding in the small community, and it became as such that when he would roll down his window, when the police would stop him, they put their palms to their heads and they'd say, "You again." And of course, out of courtesy, they always let him go. However, they did manage to tactfully suggest he try something else out for fun, so he relinquished his license at 75. The town of Gettysburg appreciated that. When heads of state would visit the United States, Granddad wanted them to see America, not just DC and New York. So he would bring them to the farm in Gettysburg, and our property abutted the farm. So it was not at all unusual to be visiting my grandparents, and another one of Granddad's friends would be visiting. May 1959, do you know when 1959 was? Yeah, all right, good. Okay, this was no different. Charles de Gaulle was visiting the United States, and Granddad brought him to the farm for a homestay so he could see how normal people lived, and I'm not sure it was so normal. But that evening before dinner, he brought Charles de Gaulle, his translator, and a couple of entourage over to my parents' house, my house, for drinks before dinner, and then they were going to go back to the farm. Everybody was going back to the farm to have a nice time. And de Gaulle would not, I'm not sure could not, but would not speak English, and did everything through a translator. And by the time my siblings, my parents, my grandparents, and the entourage of de Gaulle, and de Gaulle himself all got seated, there was nothing left for the youngest, Mary Jean, about that high. And so he was just another one of Granddad's friends, right? So I went over and sat in his lap. And I started explaining to him all about how my mother had smocked my dress and what the lace meant and all that. And he was just speaking French through his interpreter and wasn't even blinking an eye. And then my grandfather handed him a piece of paper that he was supposed to look at. And when he got the paper, he pulled out of his side pocket the thickest pair of glasses I've ever seen in my life, then or now. They were unbelievable. And in my, young diplomatic way, I said, "Why are your glasses so thick, and in English?" He said, "Because I cannot see. Poor, poor me." And the whole room goes silent, and I'm sure they're all saying, "Okay, so he speaks English. I wonder what he's heard." But if you fast forward several years, when my grandfather passed away, de Gaulle was the first person, actually, the first head of state he was already over the pond on the way before the invitations to the funeral even went out. And we were staying at the Washington Hilton, and there was a suite there, and he came in to pay respects to my grandmother after he'd visited Granddad at the rotunda. And sure enough, he comes in and he pulls those glasses out and he looks around the room, and he puts them back in his pocket, and he looks at my grandmother and says, "What a lovely family you have." And then if you fast forward even, I met his son like in 1990, and his son was picking up something to read, and sure enough, he pulled these glasses out of his pocket. It was like, oh my gosh, he inherited them. But anyway, so as you know, I'm president and CEO of People to People International. So one childhood memory seems a bit ironic. People to People was founded in 1956 by my grandfather as a way to peaceably combat the Cold War. Granddad said, "If the people will only get together, then so eventually will nations." And while People to People was founded in 1956, the first exchange Eisenhower put together was in 1954. He called it the Citizens Ambassador Program. Do you know when 1954 was? Okay, good, just checking. Okay, he called it the Citizens Ambassadors Program. And 25 US businessmen were sent to the Soviet Union to meet their counterparts. And this was the beginning of many exchanges between the contentious superpowers. This program was done directly in collaboration between Dwight Eisenhower and Nikita Khrushchev. In 1959, Khrushchev was also a guest at the farm, and as a young girl, I met him. That was kind of a fun visit because we got to play in the living room. They wanted the den to themselves, and so we got to go into do you have a forbidden room at home? One that you can't go into? Oh, you're lucky. Yeah, okay. This was the room with all the knickknacks and stuff, and we could not go in. But we did that day, and Khrushchev came bearing gifts. He gave my brother a Kennedy coloring book, and he gave the girls nesting dolls, which I have to this day. And I don't know, he just seemed, there was a little bit of tension between my grandfather and him, to the point where my grandfather took the gifts back from us and started to give them back to him. And of course, that wouldn't do, so we were all really upset, and finally talked Granddad into letting us keep them, which we did. But anyway, it was just kind of an intimidating experience, and it was also at the peak of the Cold War. So if you fast forward to 1996, People to People asked me to come speak to a worldwide conference in Newport Beach, California, and they wanted me to talk on the heart and soul of People to People, and I thought, well, I've heard about it all my life. I can certainly talk about my grandfather, so yes, I'll do it. And the night before I was supposed to speak, a trustee came and grabbed my arm and said, Mary Jean, there's somebody here you have to meet. And I could see him across the room, and he looked just like his father. My heart fell to my feet. It was Sergei Khrushchev. And I thought, my first reaction was, oh my word, what is an organization that my grandfather cherished so much doing, putting me with somebody like him? But as soon as, I very dutifully went over and I put my hand out and introduced myself, and then it must be that I shouldn't play poker, I don't know. But he pulled me close to him and he said, my dear, I hope you're not as uncomfortable as I am. And I busted up laughing. 45 minutes later, I walked away absolutely elated because I'd met one of the nicest people I'd ever met in my life that night. And then I went, that's why People to People was putting us together, and that's really what caused me to dedicate my life to People to People. So, and Sergei will never know. I haven't seen him since, and certainly his father would never have imagined it. So, as a way to explain some of the programs that we do, along with history, I usually incorporate a report to the first chairman of the board of People to People International from its current president and CEO. To explain what's happened in the world and the role that the world's citizens are playing since he passed away, and what we're doing to carry out his dream. Now, I've read the report many times, but you can imagine in this fluid world, it reads differently almost every time I read it. I believe Eisenhower would be proud of his dream and vision because I know firsthand, away from the brainstorming around the dinner table, how very much it works, and the miracles of seeing the silent angels of the world make a difference. I get to see this every day, but particularly tonight, I stand among hundreds of them. Granddad wanted people to bring out the best of the human spirit in each other. I see miracles on a minute-to-minute basis, and today has been one of my biggest ones. My report reads, Dear Mr. Chairman, you left this world in a hole in my heart over 44 years ago. So much has happened since you've gone, and I'll never know what, if anything, you do see, at least not until I reach the other side myself. So I ask you, do you know that the Iron Curtain fell over 23 years ago? There are those still living as though isolated, unable to break through decades of oppression, but all of us are trying to help them heal and meet the rest of the world. Many have even become allies. Do you know that you can still see the leftover craters at Normandy Beach? The grass gently blankets them as they softly weep to remind us of what we can never allow to happen again. Direct citizen diplomacy is trying diligently to bring forward the resilient spirit in all walks and cultures, something you so adamantly knew was there. It's being exposed every day through your vision, your dream, your architecture. But all of us, you and I, are making his dream a reality. The East and the West have met. Duck and cover. Okay, young people, who knows what duck and cover was? I don't see anybody. Okay. Oh, you do? Good. Excellent. is now a remote part of the history books and has never passed the ears or lips of the now generation. Do you know the people-to-people chapters opened in isolated Albania under the auspices of your homestay program? They housed over 1,400 refugees during the bombings in Kosovo. Last year, over 28,000 people of all ages on programs and exchanges to carry on your mission. That's 10 times the population of sweet Abilene, Kansas, the town that you grew up in. And that was only one exchange program. There's hundreds more. People all over the world are now video networked and social networked so that we can unite ourselves. We don't have to travel to get to know one another. You didn't even have a touch-tone phone. Quick, what was a touch-tone phone? You have them, believe it or not. The Worldwide Conference for People to People was in 2002 in our hometown of Kansas City. The medallion recipient that year was given to King Hussein II of Jordan posthumously. The current King Abdullah deputized his brother, Prince Hassan, who accepted the medal on behalf of his father, who was clearly a friend to all sides. But here's the ironic part about it. King Abdullah did not respond to our invitation initially, but accepted this honor by letter on September 14th, 2001. So you should know there's still good people who are not afraid to show their love of peace, even in the most tormented of areas. We joined a consortium called Friendship Through Education in order to get school children together with children of Islamic nations so that there could be a better understanding between the cultures. We hope that the understanding would trickle up to the adults. We are doing this through several means. Our contribution to the consortium is a school and classroom program that connects kids through letter, email, art, and even sewing exchanges. Enrollment went from 0 in 2001 to over 50,000 by a year's time. Today, there are 145 participants spanning over 130 countries. And I'm happy to tell you that some of those kids actually came to Kansas City to watch the Prince of Jordan accept your medallion. I can see your infectious grin at the idea. But the ripple effect of this association served as inspiration to get these kids from all over the world together face to face. We knew we weren't tube to tube, we weren't letter to letter, we weren't even sewing to sewing. But the question we had during that time especially was where? We knew people were afraid to come to the United States, and Americans were afraid to travel to areas once viewed as friendly. But in December of 2003, 244 American adults and youth convened in Egypt for our first ever peace camp. Kids from as far as Siberia and Vietnam were there from 27 different nations. Her Excellency, Mrs. Suzanne Mubarak, was kind enough to embrace our program, which certainly propelled its success. And while every day of it was a miracle of sorts, one vivid memory stays foremost in my mind. Granddad, I wish you could have been there for our peace walk. There were 3,500 Middle Easterners and North Africans walking with our peace campers, with Mrs. Mubarak helping us to lead the walk by the Red Sea. The children of Israel and Palestine walked hand in hand. The Middle Easterners carried signs saying, "Stop terrorism now, not stop peace, peace now." And welcome Peace Camp 2003, and even welcome Mary EZNHWR. After a moment, Hooked on Phonics worked for me. But there were 60 young people from 27 different nations. My birthday fell on the same day as our peace walk. The campers throughout the program had taught each other happy birthday in their native languages and sang it to me with a lit candled birthday cake. It was so much fun to see the Romanians singing in Vietnamese and the Arabs singing in Italian and so forth. However, 15 versions took so long, and I've gotten so old, my cake caught on fire. True story. But Granddad, we did achieve peace in the Middle East. It is possible, even if only for a day. And while you're gone, your spirit was all over it. We partnered with your treasured veterans, an author, Laura Hillenbrand, and an actor humanitarian, Gary Sinise, on a program called Operation International Children, where schools and communities gathered supplies together to send to children, the innocents caught in the crossfire in Iraq and Afghanistan. These supplies were given to the children by the troops. Amazing bridges were built. It was a way of dashing their fears opening their minds, relieving their disparity for a moment, and supporting the troops in their rebuilding efforts. Now that operations have wound down, the good news is the war is dissipating, but we have temporarily closed the program. However, were you alive, I know you would have built the kits yourself. And your dream of the Cold War ending without bloodshed has been realized, but sadly, the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the men and women who shouldered with you over 60 years ago, nearly 70, are once again putting their lives on the line and dedicating themselves to eradicating genocide and oppression. In a way, they face a much more abstract and complicated time, and I don't know what kind of connections you may have where you are, but please put in a good word for our seemingly unsung heroes. Someone must have done that for you because history is spoken. And tonight, I'm humbled to be standing in a room full of hundreds of heroes, of your comrades of today. I know you would be honored to personally salute every one of them. They are our nation's best. And I wish you could see the scores of armed forces, volunteers, and everyday citizens who work round the clock to pursue the ideals and dreams you so passionately termed as the road to peace. God bless you, Granddad. Rest in peace. Love, Mary Jean. In closing, I'd like to read one paragraph from his final farewell address that was given on January 17th, 1961. Do you know when that was? Their great human needs satisfied, that those now denied opportunity shall come to enjoy it to the full, that all who yearn for freedom may experience its spiritual blessings, that those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibilities, that all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, that the scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made to disappear from the earth, and that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. And in behalf of myself and my entire family, and especially my grandfather, maybe if by proxy, I'd like to thank you for being the answer to his prayers. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Eisenhower. I just want to say to our honorees here tonight, this is the kind of example that you now are expected to uphold. You represent the tens of thousands of military kids all around the world who serve and do just amazing things. And from one military kid to another, this is an example for you to uphold, not only with your peers, but with your families and your communities. Thank you very much for being with us. And I want to offer final congratulations to our 5 award recipients, Nicole, Abigail, Alexander, Mark, and Amanda. Our nation thanks you for your patriotism and your commitment to the highest ideals that our armed forces embody. Remember that you represent the best our country has to offer, and you represent all the other amazing, accomplished military kids out there. And on behalf of our Board of Directors of Operation Homefront, let me express our appreciation to all of you for being with us here tonight. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to meet our award recipients and their families. They're really amazing people, and I thank you for being here and wish you good night.